Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. Here we are once again about mid-September, and we have a very special guest speaker, and I know you hear me say this a lot, but this one is very, very unique for a few reasons. Number one, from a personal side. Number two, from a business side. Number three, from a great inspirational side. I think everyone is going to walk away with some nuggets of information that's going to help change you in your daily practice, if it's personal, business, whatever your goals are, but you're going to learn a little something on today's episode. As you know, we typically don't like to have carriers on here unless it's like a great trainer, influencer, but today's call is a little different. Yes, we have Laura from Sagicor Life, but I'm also going to say we go back over 10 years now, and we're about the same age, so we're considered to be a little younger to be in the positions we're in our industry. So we met, just over 10 years ago, and forgetting business on a personal level, we're good friends. She also runs distribution at Sagicor Life, which to be a female executive in that position, especially at her age, is huge and priceless in my opinion. So I was excited to ask her to be a guest. We're excited to have her featured. So great stuff to come. Take out a pen and paper. You're going to want to jot down some notes. I know we have a lot of agents on. We have males, females from all different walks of life in the insurance space, some in accounting and the legal side, whatever it is. I want everyone to write down notes and, again, walk away with good nuggets, and that's what today's presentation is exactly about. So please, that's my goal for today. Okay, so I'm going to give just a quick introduction. I want to talk a little bit about Laura, and then we'll introduce her and dive right in. So real quick, Laura is today Vice President of the Life and Annuity Distribution Channel at Sagicor Life. She's responsible for executing distribution strategy, including product and marketing development, and driving life and annuity sales with valued partners, just like Levinson and Associates and all of you that are on this call, quite frankly. Prior to joining Sagicor, Laura held a position as Vice President of Brokerage Life at Transamerica. She's very passionate about financial planning, helping families achieve their income protection and retirement goals. She's also a graduate of the University of Illinois with a Bachelor in Science and Finance. She also holds the following designations with FINRA, Series 7, Florida Life and Health, Chartered Life Underwriter, and Chartered Financial Consultant, otherwise known as CLU and CHFC. So she's, accomplished a lot at her young age. I'm very proud of her as a friend. So, Laura, kudos to you. Very impressive stuff. Okay. Let's jump right into my first question here. And I told Laura even before we started, I want this to be very casual, just like, we're friends talking at 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. And, that I want obviously her, and which she always is anyway, to be real and herself. And obviously I'm going to come across the same exact way because I think that's most important to bring value to all of our guests on today's call. So you know why this is so important to me. I mentioned it a few times, but what I also think is very important, yes, Laura's a wonderful person on both sides of the fence, but Sagicor, and I'm just going to say this real quick, they have a technology platform that's second to none in our industry. And by the way, I'm not like, this isn't a Sagicor commercial, but it's important for all of you to know as agents right now during this pandemic, let's face it, we're all forced to sit in our third bedroom home office and sell online and sell on the phone, right, and get comfortable with these Zoom meetings and go-to webinars and dressing nice and professional from the waist up, right? We know what's going on right now. We also need competitive products with great technology, in most cases even instant decisions if there's no red flags. So there's not many carriers that have a platform like this. Some are trying in the last few months to come up with something, but Sagicor has proven this even before Corona was even known to be, COVID-19 and what it is today. So, and by the way, they've tweaked their platform to make it even better, which is hard to believe. But anyway, you want to be paying attention. It's very, very important. Everybody should be using Sagicor. And of course, our scholarship program, it's a win-win-win. Okay, very important stuff, and I've said that 3 times already, so please pay attention and jot down notes. Okay, so Laura, enough of my ranting. I want to officially introduce you and just start with asking you how it all began, if we can take it way back, growing up, and then how you wound up in this wonderful business, and then education, et cetera. Can you tell us how it all started for you?
Absolutely. And thanks so much, Bill. I'm very flattered to be on here. Hopefully won't disappoint you and the great folks that are listening, unfortunately, to me speak. So I'll apologize up front for that. And I will also say thank you. It's been a long time since I've been called young. Certainly don't feel that way all the time. So I'll say thank you up front. But a lot of my background really started when I was young, growing up in, middle school time. And I give a lot of credit to my parents and my father in particular. My father was an accountant, and we were growing up in northern New Jersey. And he always taught me to be business minded. I remember at an early age sitting at the kitchen table with my dad, and he was interviewing candidates for a role that would work with him. And I remember him showing me resumes, and he would go, take a look at these. What do you like and what don't you like? So he would have me read through them, and he would help me point out, all right, well, this person had a typo, or this person didn't communicate effectively what their skill set is. I don't understand what their background is. So even at an early age, it's something that really stands out to me. He was starting to coach me into being somewhat business-minded, and how you present yourself in a resume is one aspect of it, but, he would teach me, to go in and, make eye contact, shake the person's hand, dress to impress, speak clearly and concisely, and be yourself, because it really shines through when you communicate with somebody. So I look back on that now, and I think he was starting to. So credit to Dad, give me some of the building blocks of business, and I'm sure you can appreciate the same thing too, Bill. Growing up in this business and learning so much from your dad, who's an inspiration to both of us.
Yep, that's so true. And at the time, I remember sitting at those kitchen table meetings, and I'm like, yes, this was great value add, but other times I would fall asleep. It was so boring. But it's funny how you use so much of that, and you almost become. There's a time I feel like you become like the parent, and it's almost like things totally change in the opposite direction. Yeah. So I love to hear that stuff.
Yeah, growing up too, it's. My family, another something that probably you can relate to, my father ended up starting his own business. We bought a chain of failing bakeries, unfortunately, out in western New Jersey. And unfortunately, those bakeries didn't end up being successful. It was, too much for essentially one person to handle. But from the business aspect of it, I remember him kind of, waking me up at 3 a.m. and saying, somebody called in today. I need you to come in with me, and you're making bread. And it's something that even at an early age, you understand kind of the work ethic behind it. You start to learn human resources and the people skills. But, certainly from a cost and an overhead perspective, sales and marketing of being a business owner, there's nothing tougher. But also nothing more rewarding than being a business owner. It's something I respect so much. But it's things like that I think really formed some of the skills I have today. And honestly, going from essentially, living in New Jersey and having a home and us having a business to when the business failed, unfortunately, we lost the business and our home. And we had to start over completely from scratch. My family ended up moving out to Chicago when I was a junior in high school, which ultimately is what got me into going into University of Illinois and down that path. But it was something that I said, I never want another family to experience this. If I can go into a field from a financial planning and business aspect and help families achieve their dreams and not experience what I went through, is really what propelled me to get into this business.
Very interesting. I didn't even know that part of it. Yeah, that's just crazy. And it's like you were doing great, and then all of a sudden you went on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and it really is an eye opener. And then what? Changing schools, right? Changing high schools for junior and senior.
Forces you to adapt and change. Certainly gets you to you put your best foot forward, adapt and change, and learn to take the positive in even a pretty crummy situation. And I look back now and think, if my family hadn't experienced that hardship, would I be where I am today? And I don't know if I would be. I think from a character building and independent aspect of you need to be able to sustain and be able to change on your own. And it's really helped me to, get to where I am, because going into a finance background, I, helped pay my way through college as a sales assistant to 2 different brokers, which also started me on that path. So I got to learn firsthand the planning aspect from sitting with clients and hearing their questions and being able to see that interaction between the client and the broker planner. And ultimately is what got me into insurance today. I was lucky enough to get recruited out of college by a wonderful national insurance carrier, and I started out as an assistant to an assistant. I was the lowest on that totem pole of life. And I made a tremendous amount of copies. I was exceptional at copy making and answering the phone.
Laura, I'm just curious. Just real quick. So that was right out of college. So you were what, about 21, 22?
21. I was back many moons ago.
Yeah. No. I think it's great though.
At the time was premium finance. So I remember making those copies, and I said, well, I might as well read what I'm copying. And that's how I started to really kind of build my skill set. And I said, all right, well, there's some things I don't understand. And once a week I would go to lunch with the advanced sales attorneys and say, I just want to hear what you guys are talking about. I want to learn from you. And it's, being young and hungry and thirsting for knowledge. And I had a tremendous opportunity to, ended up getting promoted to be an internal and then an external, and then ultimately led into, management roles. But I think it's so important that, when you start at the bottom and you learn the most basic aspects of the business, if it's opening the mail or, chasing down an APS or doing whatever you have to do. I think so many times, unfortunately, as insurance companies, you sit in an ivory tower and you don't realize what it's like to actually pick up the phone and have to do service work, or what it's like to be an agent. And it's so important to know, what it's like for the people that we're helping every day.
Yep, that's right. For those agents that are literally, they're not collecting a guaranteed salary. They're living, week to week, paycheck to paycheck, which is based on commissions from policies sold. So you're exactly right. What I'm so impressed with, and even before this podcast, is how you moved up the ladder so quickly. That it's amazing to me. What most people need to understand is, to be in Laura's position, right? It takes a lot of years, dedication, sacrifice, responsibility, right? Tons of hours. most of the people in the industry that are in a position like Laura's have been doing this, for 40, 50 years. And, they moved up through the ranks, and it's taken so much time. And obviously there's some politics with other people that are in positions like that involved, unfortunately. But that's what impresses me so much, Laura, is you moved up so quickly. And obviously, your dedication and positivity and discipline is all, a result. And look what happened because of that. But that's impressive to me.
Well, you're kind to say that. Thank you. I kind of joke all the time that I may not be the smartest person. There's always going to be people that are smarter than me, but I like to think I can always work harder, and that's something I can control. And I think that's unfortunately so many times lost today.
100%. I agree. I always feel like if you're willing to put the hours in and you can stay disciplined, then there's no limit to what you can do with your life. And it's so true. I think it's important, and one example that you mentioned is like, having that fall and hitting that bottom, how it's so important, like to bounce back from that and to know what it's like at the bottom, right? So you appreciate when things are good, and it makes you work so hard. And I also feel like, everyone's got a story, right? Let's be honest. Everyone has a bottom. Everyone has a story. Everyone went through something in their personal or business life, right? And I feel like we can use that, right, to bounce back on the other side. It almost gives you, at least the way I think about this psychologically, it almost gives me a leg up on my competitors. Like I say to myself sometimes, if, Bob or Shirley went through what I went through, they would understand more. And so I think it's just a great way to look at it, in a positive light. But, everyone has it worse. Everyone has a story. And I feel like the harder you bounce back from that, the more successful you're going to be. And it just makes for a great person overall if you can, come out the other side stronger.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's kind of, I didn't come from, financially a lot. I came from a wonderful family that was supportive with a tremendous amount of love, which is wonderful, which is, I can't discount that at all. But I think they also taught me a tremendous amount about, be independent, you can only prove yourself, work hard. And I think those are kind of the basic building blocks of, life skills that you really learn from your parents.
Yep, I agree 100%. And if, God forbid, a mother or father, passed on, or in some cases both parents aren't here, that's why I always say it's like find a good mentor, a good coach, someone that can step in that role. And there's really no, you can say to yourself, oh, that's easier said than done. I don't agree with that. I mean, there's so many, networks and even just on these Facebook groups, you can go out and meet people. Yes, it's a little harder right now with COVID, but there's no excuse. And I feel like that person can play such a huge role in your life. And, I was very fortunate, and I met my mentor, at 19 years old. And, he's a Forbes 400 member. He's a self-made billionaire, actually from Chicago. And he's a part of my life forever. He's like a second father to me. And those things can change your life. If it's a mother, father, mentor, coach, whatever. But as a younger person, even middle-aged person, you have to try to find that. It could be a sibling, whatever it is. But I think we have to really get the point across how important that is to be successful in this industry and other industries. Okay, I want to say one more thing, and then I want to dive into, obviously you're at the carrier level, and you guys have a tech platform that's second to none. Like it's almost like built for this pandemic. So I want to talk about that a little bit. But I also want to just mention one more thing, and it's very important. So we have over 70 insurance companies, life, annuity, supplemental health. And, growing up in this industry, you always met, the VPs and SVPs, and you always think, oh, my God, I'm meeting a VP, from back then, Philadelphia Life Insurance, put on your nice suit and make sure you're looking at him or her in the eyes and, make sure your hands are crossed and, you always have to have a firm handshake. And you kind of get this image, and you're like, wow, it's almost like you're meeting like a VP of the United States of America. It's such a big deal. And growing up in the industry, I always said to myself, oh, man, this guy or girl is going to be so impressive and I can learn a lot. And the truth of the matter is, what I figured out and realized throughout the years, these people are just like you and me, and they're not like so above the law and like running the United States of America. And then what I started to realize as the years went further in is a lot of these people have a great talk, right? And they sound great, and oh, we're going to be here for you. And next thing you know, you have a problem and they're nowhere to be found, and they send an email and say, here, talk to my internal, or you send an email and you get an out of office response. They're on vacation for 10 days and then the dates aren't even correct, and it's like, wait a minute, this guy or girl, they just put on this great presentation for me, so impressive, and now they're not there when you need them most. And it puts a bad taste in my mouth. And what I realized, and unfortunately, is that as the years went on, is most of these people they're I hate to say this, like a pretty face, and there's nothing behind it. And what's so unique and special, and I'm going to make you blush a little bit, but it's okay. There is not one other, let's say, home office executive or VP or SVP, whatever you want to call it, that walks the walk and talks the talk like Laura does. Okay, what's unbelievable is we have our own Sagicor VP. When there's an issue, Laura steps in. She's on the phone. She's there for you. We have a big agency. She literally jumped in. She started speaking to them. It was like a Saturday afternoon. I'll never forget it. And they're writing a lot of business, and they were even asking for like marketing dollars, which, by the way, is typically not available. But guide those calls to me personally. If you're writing the business, let us know. But what's just crazy to me, getting back on the point here, Laura stepped in, helped them out with everything they needed, and they sent me an email on Monday morning saying, wow, what a wonderful person and company, blah, blah, blah. So the point behind all of this is I've never seen someone in your position, Laura, jump in head first like you do. It's not just, the pretty face or the great sales pitch. You are there, and that means the world to us, and that's another reason why I wanted to feature you on today's episode. So thank you for all of that.
You are too kind to say that, and yes, I am blushing. So it's I think a lot of it comes down to, and for those of you who are listening, that are producers and agents in the field, you have such a tough job. It's your livelihood is dependent upon how that policy goes with the carrier and your relationship with the client. And I think a lot of times it's forgotten that if that policy doesn't go well, you're not helping that family, but also you're not earning an income. And it's so important that we don't forget that. And I will say I still sell on the side with family and friends as referrals. And I think it's important that, as an insurance company, you fully understand the pain points, but also where you can find an ease of doing business in all insurance processes. So you can help refine it and make it better, because there is no insurance company without agents and without clients. So we can't forget about that. You're the most important part of this process.
Yeah, 100%. And again, that's not just the great speech or talk. I mean, she puts her money where her mouth is, and she is there for us every step of the way, and obviously for you too. So that's a great point. I'm going to share a story at the end, especially because it's Life Insurance Awareness Month as well. But I just want to talk about something that just happened on a personal level. But we'll save that for the end. Okay, well, I want to shift gears a little bit. So obviously, what's unique about today's episode is Laura is at the carrier level, not just at the carrier level, but she's a higher up, reports to the CEO, which is huge. So she's seeing all sides of the life insurance sales process, right? And she's hearing the stories. And what I wanted to ask you, Laura, and I think all of the agents and audience will appreciate this, is I wanted to talk a little bit about selling and what you're seeing during this pandemic, right? Nobody knew what was coming, right? Come January 1st, 2020, we're all celebrating the new year. Nobody knew what was around the corner and how this industry would change, okay, very quickly. And we had to change, right, because of that. So what I wanted to ask you is, what are you hearing or seeing, like, from agents, agencies, and then any suggestions, advice, success stories, just kind of your take on what's going on right now from your position.
Yeah, whoever knew when we were drinking champagne at midnight on, New Year's Eve, that this would be our year. And despite the incredible devastation that COVID-19 has caused in the U.S. and throughout the world, you hate to think that there could be a positive that could come out of this type of devastation. But in a way, I almost think it's brought us as a community closer together. And the reason I say that is and if you and your families and friends are anything like mine, I would speak to them and I would text with them, but we never FaceTimed. We never set up Zoom chats. So COVID has brought us together because we couldn't see each other in person. We started setting up, Zoom happy hours or, Zoom lunch meetings. And girlfriends of mine from college, my family that's all over the country, colleagues from work, we're all together on whether it's GoToMeeting or Zoom or FaceTime or Microsoft Teams. The stigma around video chat has really gone away, and it's been wonderful. I will say it's so nice to be able to see my friends and my family's faces and, all the fun things that come with that. And you're exactly right, Bill. It's a blazer on the top and sweatpants on the bottom. You can get away with that. You brush your hair real quick and go, okay, I'm Zoom ready now. It's changed the way we can conduct business. And so my suggestion would be to the agents on the phone is if you're a little nervous about scheduling a video conference at Zoom or GoToMeeting or FaceTime with a client, don't be. Your clients are doing it now with their family and friends, and I think it'll really change how you conduct business by being able to see someone smile or their confusion if they don't understand what you're talking about, to be able to see their body language. But even with some of the different technology that's out there, you'll have the ability to share your screen and, let's say, show, there's nothing that beats, you always kind of joke about like the cocktail napkin or a legal pad. I always like to draw T-charts when I sit with people to help explain things. I'm a visual learner. And you still have the ability to do that via a lot of these technology platforms. So my encouragement would be, if you're not doing that today, give it a try. I think your clients will feel very comfortable with the video chat, and you might have been hesitant to do it before because you might have thought it was too invasive. Oh, they don't want to be on video. They may not understand it. Give it a shot. I bet they do. And the other thing I would encourage is, I know e-applications can feel sometimes out of your comfort zone if you haven't been using them previously. I get it. All technology is scary at first. Heck, when we first got into this business and the first time you took a paper application with a client, you probably read through that app so you were prepared when you sat down with the client for what questions you were going to ask. I would just say, I know I do it too sometimes, I get a little complacent and go, okay, I'm used to this. I've done it a million times. Well, the e-app might be a little different. Go through it before you meet with the client, because I know everyone is thinking, gosh, I'm afraid to use this because I don't want to look foolish. in front of the client. I don't want to blow the sale or look silly if I have a technology glitch. Just go through it beforehand. And if there is a glitch, and gosh, we've all experienced a technology glitch at least once in our lives, I'm sure many, many times more, clients get it. They're typically really understanding. And the e-application process at many of the great insurance companies that are out there is so streamlined and so easy to use. Most importantly, it's going to save you time, and we all know time is money. Gives you the opportunity, if you're not, mailing applications and scanning and dealing with all of that back and forth, it's going to save you time and overhead and give you that opportunity to really focus more with those existing clients and prospect. So it's really, you hate to say that there's been a silver lining, in what we're going through as a nation with COVID, but I think the willingness of agents and clients to do Zoom meetings and face-to-face video chats and the adoption of electronic technology has really propelled agents to continue to maintain their livelihood and their business in this really difficult time.
Yep. No, that's a great point. And you're right. It's hard to say that any positive comes out of this time, right? I mean, it's just horrible all over the world. Mm-hmm. But I think, and not only do I think, but I know what's happening. The life insurance awareness topic conversation is coming up. It's skyrocketing at the lunch, the dinner table, the breakfast table. Everybody's home, right? And they're all looking at mommy and daddy saying, oh my gosh, if they get COVID and something happens, are we going to be okay? You know what, Bob or Shirley? Let's get a quote, right? And if you're marketing on social media and online and your name is out there, hopefully that call comes into you. Right? If you're proactive and you're doing the right things that we always talk about. And this is off script, but I want to just explain real quick how simple the process is at Sagicor. So, Laura, if you don't mind, just for a second, if we can, let's just pretend like, let's say I'm a client, you're the agent, and, I call you, we had that dinner table discussion, and I say, I'm calling Laura for a quote. She's the local insurance guru. Right, and we're both on the phone, and you run a quote for me, okay, with Sagicor. Let's say it's term or the no lapse UL or wealth care, whatever it is. So you run the quote. Just explain, if you don't mind, to everyone listening, like from quote to EAP to approval. Like if there's no red flags, we're at, let's say, $300,000 on a term. How easy is the process? If you can just explain it in black and white.
Sure. So, Bill, I have the pleasure of receiving your phone call, and you want a quote for life insurance, and you're absolutely right. As an industry, we've seen a huge increase in life insurance activity over the last 6, 7, 8 months, and a lot of it is awareness of your own mortality. COVID has made that very apparent to all of us. You remember that every time now you walk into the grocery store and you have to put your mask on. But to your question around the EAP process, so you and I are on the telephone, I can run a quote, and that data from the quote actually feeds directly into the e-application process. So a lot of the data entry is already done as part of the quote. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll ask you the application questions. Some of them will be health questions. So ask your height and weight, ask some background medical questions, and some of them are reflexive. So what that means is if you say, yes, I have high blood pressure, the reflexive question down then will say, okay, do you know your blood pressure levels, things like that. And then to get to the signature process, because it's over the telephone, what will happen is I will have an email sent to you. You'll open up your email, you'll check the box, you'll type in your name to assign electronically. That comes back to me as the agent. I sign, and then off it goes to Sagicor, all electronic. Now, our accelerating process is accelerated underwriting. Depending upon the product and the client age and then the face amount, what's really important to us as a company is that we try to make it as efficient and non-invasive as possible to a client. Now, this was something we were doing pre-COVID, But even more so now, it's become so much more important. Now, what's really important to us, we do not require a paramed exam. So what that means is, as an agent, you don't have to worry about presenting something to your client and then going back and saying, oh, darn it, it looks like you're not going to be preferred. You're looking standard. Unfortunately, now a nurse is going to have to come out to the house and do blood and urine. For goodness sakes, in a time of COVID, you can't even go into the grocery store without a mask. But now you're going to have a stranger come into your home, ask you medical questions, take blood, you get to pee in a cup. People didn't want to do that pre-COVID. You certainly don't want to do that now that your home is the one safe space that you have left. So it's so nice that it's part of the process. You don't have to worry about asking your client to have a stranger come into their home to draw blood. So that's really what we pride ourselves on. And I think the way consumers are demanding that we do business nowadays. And what's so great about the insurance industry is that we're adapting to what consumers are demanding. They want a process that's non-invasive, that's quick. So Bill, of course, you are young and you're healthy. You have no red flags, at least that I know of, that would come up in your medical underwriting. So you actually have the opportunity to get a decision right there at point of sale. Now, I will put the big caveat asterisk on that, you know, of course, there are certainly times where someone's medical file will have to be reviewed by an underwriter. But a paramed would not be required, and never a separate telephone interview. So we really try to keep the process as quick as possible because, again, we know nobody wants to be dealing with asking medical questions or forms or all of the fun stuff that as an insurance industry was built into the process. It's part of why I'm so proud to work for Sagicor is that we really responded to the demands of consumers today.
And even pre-COVID, that's what's so unique.
Yes.
Yes. So let's just say younger, healthier clients and face amount, you know, $250, and this client, let's say, qualifies for the accelerating program. The entire process with, let's say, decision, right? Hopefully it's approved, preferred. So the entire process could happen in what, less than 15 minutes, 20 minutes, if everything is smooth.
Best case scenario, you know, I would say budget about 15 minutes-ish to complete the application. And then once the signatures are in, best case scenario, you find out a decision right there when the policy is submitted. And then if it does have to go to an underwriter, I would budget, you know, 5 to 7 business days, you know, depending upon the complexity of the case.
But if there's no red flags, smooth sailing, we qualify and get approved, hopefully, in less than 15 to 20 minutes from A to Z.
Absolutely. And then e-delivery. It's so funny. I get some agents that'll call me up and go, Laura, I'm really concerned about the e-delivery. I like to be able to deliver a paper policy to my client. It's part of the planning process. I like being able to sit down with them. I like being able to meet the family, possibly meet the beneficiaries to really build that family network of planning. Now, obviously, in a COVID world, that's a little bit different. Most clients are saying, no, thank you. I'll take the e-delivered policy and I don't want to see your smiling face. But if there is a scenario where you do want to be able to deliver the policy or put it in the mail, I always kind of joke with the agents. I said, you get a copy of it. You can print it. I'll send you fancy folders. And we can get that all bound up pretty for you. But you have that opportunity. Even with the delivery, you can always print it if you wanted to do the follow-up directly with the client.
Yep. So either way, you have access to both. So it makes your life so much easier. I love it. I love it. So, and I'll tell you right now, again, over 70 carriers, no one has a platform that's this easy, right? Or what happens is a carrier will have the great technology and the great platform, but the products are so overly priced, it's not even worth it. And what I like about your platform, it's a win-win on actually all three sides. So the client gets a great product, the agent has a great, easy sales process, and the commissions are great, and even advance available if you qualify. And I forgot about this, great incentives typically on both the life and annuity side, okay, depending on what time that you listen to this. So anyway, we'll save that for the end. But it's just something that you want to at least look at, especially during this time. Okay, I want to shift gears again a little bit. I want to go back to you, Laura, and obviously as the Chief Channel Officer at Sagicor, you've come a long way in a very short time. And I've said that a few times already because I'm very proud of what you've accomplished. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And if you can go back, it's funny, I ask this question. I usually say, if we can go back 20, 25 years, but with Laura, she's younger, like myself. So I'm going to say, if we can go back 15 years, what would you tell the younger Laura that maybe would have helped you even more with your success as one of the top female executives in our industry? Is there anything, any advice, the younger generation can listen to you on that would change the direction maybe for them?
Yeah, well, I will say, again, thank you. You pointing out maybe now that I'm not so young, so thanks, Bill. No. I would look back at younger Laura and say, don't get complacent. I think in my early 20s, I was so hungry for knowledge. I was constantly reading, always learning. I was going through my CLU and my CHFC, and I was a sponge of knowledge. I am a giant tax geek at heart. And I was always actually practicing my public speaking skills. I really struggled with it early on in my career. I didn't have confidence. I didn't know how to convey my message appropriately. And I practiced a lot, many times in front of the mirror. And I had, just as you had mentioned, great mentors. And there's a gentleman that some of you may know, and he'll probably blush when he hears this. There's a gentleman named John Oliver, who was a mentor of mine and a great personal friend. He is a tremendous speaker and a brilliant mind and a fantastic human. I don't think my skills would be where they are today without his assistance and helping to groom me into how to resonate a message, how to tell a joke, when you're talking about something like tax planning and making it interesting, how to tell a personal story around it. And I think as I've gotten more comfortable with my public speaking skills, and a lot of it came down to being passionate about what you talk about. I don't know if any of you remember doing a Toastmasters or a public speaking, and they would say, tell me about your summer break. And I say that because I remember in college having a public speaking class, and I really struggled. I was like, what am I supposed to tell all these strangers about my summer break? They don't care about this. And I think what's so different now is that I realize when I speak about something that I really care, I'm passionate about it. And I think that's so important, is to find the story, find the passion in whatever you're speaking about, and don't become complacent. So, you're a good reminder, Bill, that I need to brush up on my skills, because you get so comfortable doing something day in and day out, but you can always refine it and be better.
Yes, love it. Love it. And that's another reason I love these episodes. Another reason a lot of this stuff, like for me and you even personally, as we go through all of this, it's almost like it brings up a lot of these past ideas, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot, I used to do this, or I need to do this a little better. So, as much as the audience gets from this, I feel like we take a lot as well. And we learn from ourselves a lot, that things kind of get pushed to the back, and now all of a sudden it's back up to the surface, and you're like, oh man, I really got to start doing this again. But that's so true. You're right. And that same for me, same exact thing with complacency. And, and John Oliver, that's funny you brought him up. He was our keynote for a couple of years at our expo.
Yes.
And yes, one of my favorite speakers ever in our industry. He's a legend. And I hope he does hear this. In fact, I'm going to send this to him when we're done. But he's so inspirational, and he gets so into whatever he's talking about that it's hard not to sit up, pay attention, and take notes when you hear him speak. So that's great. I didn't know that. I love to hear that, Laura. That's awesome.
Well, and I kind of joke with my colleagues today, and I was like, I'm not good at what I'm doing. I've stolen this from someone, and there's no shame in that. Anything funny or insightful I've ever said is because I learned it or heard it from someone else saying it. So that's, I think, one of the great things about when you hear someone present is taking nuggets of great ideas or something that you can make your own and repeatable. And I credit to all the great presenters out there, because I've definitely stolen many ideas from you.
Yeah, it's okay. They always say you don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel. You just add a few more spokes to the wheel, and you're good.
Right.
You know what amazes me is how John, and I've tried to do this myself, but I can't do it as good as John, but how he has the microphone and he walks down the aisles and speaks to people like in their face, and he gets so into it. I almost feel like, yes, you can learn to be a great speaker, but part of that is in him. He was almost born with this talent. It's amazing. Okay. All right. Shifting gears again, and this is a big one. It doesn't, again, matter what part of the industry you're in or even in a different industry. This is just general. What motivated you mentally and physically to get where you are today when so many others fail? At the carrier level where you are with the company, agents, whatever it is there something that you kept, laser focused on and that got you to where you are today?
There have been many times in my career where I think I've been underestimated. I distinctly remember times where someone has said to me and go, "Oh, do you need to run this past your boss, or is there someone else you need to check with on that?" And you go, "No, I'm perfectly capable of making this decision." It could be something that's really silly and little. And I think that's always motivated me to, back many moons ago when I actually did look young. And that I haven't said that in years and years, but I remember sitting with clients and, talking to them about financial planning. I did a lot of point of sale early in my career where I would sit with a financial advisor and his or her client and provide retirement or income or estate tax planning. And I remember a client looking at me once, and I was 25 years old, and the client looking at me going, "You want me to write you a check for thousands of dollars for my estate plan? I have stocks older than you. Are you kidding me?" And I still look back and I still can remember that gentleman's face clear as day. And it was, and I, said with confidence, I said, "You absolutely, can get a second opinion, and I welcome you to do so." But what we're doing here is, kind of walk through what's in the client's best interest, and kind of the planning aspect. And then again, I kind of go back to that legal pad with a T-chart. And I may not, there's always going to be people who have been in this business longer than me, but I think it comes down to, preparation and hard work. And I legitimately care, about doing the right thing for people. Financial planning is something I'm really passionate about. I will say I get a lot of friends that joke with me. I am their really frugal friend. I'm the friend that will reuse a paper towel because it just has a little bit of ketchup on it. It's it's things like that, I think, that kind of propel me into, I live and breathe it myself. So I think that kind of conveys when I do speak to, clients and advisors. And I think you get so much further too with honesty. And if something isn't a fit, I'll tell you. I know I might lose that sale, but I would rather make sure that I'm honest, and, more will come down the road by building that relationship than it will from that one sale.
That's right. Did you wind up getting the check from that man?
Of course we did.
Atta girl. Love it. I love to hear it. Isn't it crazy too? You think about, I also grew up in this industry. I was very young to be in my role in this industry, and you talk about being underestimated, and that happened to me all the time. I remember I used to make cold calls when I started, and I would try to sound very older and professional and put on my different voice. And I feel like when people look at you like that, or they say to you, oh, do you have to run this by your boss, or when you are the boss, or, whatever the case is, it makes you just come out that much stronger and harder and prove yourself for you, most important. Prove to yourself that you can do this. And it makes me fight harder, I know, when that happens. It still happens to me today. So I can only imagine in your shoes.
No, and I think, it does. It kind of builds you to that point where, I think it does build confidence a little bit that no, I worked hard. I earned this. This wasn't an anointed position.
Yep. No, that's right. That's exactly right. This is another big one, and I know you deal with a lot of stress. You have a lot of responsibilities. A lot of people report to you. Obviously, the company's numbers always have to look good, right? Or else, they have a board, and you hear things, and you always have to perform day in and day out. I know before the pandemic, you would be traveling a lot, probably a couple weeks out of the month, which is just crazy. Is there something that motivates you every day, where maybe you have to open up your certain book, or maybe if it's religion or yoga, anything you can share with the audience, maybe a little nugget?
I was a huge, and this is not a paid promote, I was a huge advocate of Orange Theory Fitness. I loved 1 hour a day of going and exercising or whatever it is. I liked having someone essentially yell at me and to make decisions for me. I loved an hour where I didn't have to make a single decision, and it was my outlet, my meditation, my place to decompress and not think about anything then other that, task at hand, if it's on the treadmill or the rower or exercising with dumbbells and things like that. And post-COVID, I haven't had the ability to go back there. So I've kind of shifted my meditation to, COVID-friendly exercise. So funny enough, I live in a building with 20 floors. So I've started going up and down the stairs. I don't ever see another human in that time, but I've started to shift kind of that outlet, but that's what I need mentally. Plus it allows me the opportunity to do my other favorite thing, which is to eat snacks. So it's that outlet that provides some meditation, some decompressed time, put on some music. I am a huge fan of 80s hair bands. So I put on my Bon Jovi, and I am a happy girl going up and down those stairs.
So let's say when things get tough, rough day, you feel like you're not seeing the light on the other side, you feel a lot better after you do if it's Orange Theory or the stairs or whatever it is, like that gets you back to your happy place? Or
it gets me back to normal. And it's funny, even my team knows. They're like, we better let Laura go do that. We have a better chance of getting what we want after she's had that time.
Yeah, I love it. I think everybody needs something. I don't care what it is. But yeah, I agree with you. I have my audio books that I listen to every day on the way to work, leaving work. I think it's, for me personally, I have to get in that place or else I'm just not the same. So that works great.
Do you have a certain genre that you like? Do you like fiction, nonfiction?
I'm into all the motivational. I love Gary Vaynerchuk, the Tony Robbins. Yeah, I love to hear all the different podcasts. They have great books. I use that Amazon Audible app. And then, of course, the podcast channel. But I have to listen, every single day. I'm just not the same. And I also love music, just like the 80s, 90s. But when it's Monday to Friday and it's work mode, I have to listen to something like inspirational, motivational. I don't know. I just have to get in that place or else I'm not the same. And it's funny because I'll get in the car. I have a 30-minute drive to work. I'll get in the car. And, let's say the music, sometimes you turn your car on, the music's on, the same station from the night before or whatever, and a good song is on. And I have to say to myself, no, Bill, this is work time. You have to get your podcast or your Audible book on, and it's got to be something, business related. I have to get in that place. But it's all about discipline for me. I have to get to that place day in and day out.
Well,
so
I
whatever
know better
works
than
for
to
you.
play Bon Jovi for you Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's only
No.
Saturday and Sunday music for you.
Saturday morning, I'm in 100%. Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, I love it all. All right, let's just a few things left, and then we're gonna wrap up. I want to ask you, putting our business hat on for a second, where you are today with Sagicor and the company, and of course the direction that you want to go in. I'm sure COVID probably threw a little wrench in this, probably for the better, I would assume, because of technology, and you have to now think forward, right, because of what's going on. But just your take on the company and then the direction you want to go, and I think we all want to hear.
Well, what I appreciate so much about Sagicor, and certainly the industry as a whole, is that and heck, Bill, you and I, we've kind of joked about this, we're on the younger side, or perhaps middle-aged now side of insurance, but I love that we're part of what I'm kind of calling the new insurance. I think historically, life insurance was always compared to auto insurance, and auto insurance is great, and it's required. And the really crummy part about auto insurance, though, is that the only time you ever get to experience a benefit is because you got into an accident, which is really no fun. Well, now compare that to life insurance. Well, when do you get to historically receive that benefit? Well, because somebody died. Well, that's even less fun. I think that we're transitioning the thought about life insurance not just into death benefit, but also into living benefits. And the conversation is changing. And I'm thrilled that as an industry and as an insurance community, we're really talking about the great things that come along with insurance that you don't have to die to experience. If it's chronic illness, critical illness, it's weight over a premium, it's cash values, it's income generation, it's the ability to take withdrawals and experience the growth in a policy. I think that's so important that we still convey that message that you can meet multiple client needs and benefits wrapped into one. You kind of think of it, and the auto insurance companies do it so well. They talk about bundling. There you're bundling different features into one package or one product. And we haven't thought about that on the life insurance side until more recently. But the nice thing is carriers have really made it quite easy, is that bundling is automatically happening, that you can have those living benefits of chronic and critical illness and, the ability to have cash value growth all wrapped into one. And to couple that with technology, because clients, again, are demanding it. They don't want a long process. They don't want to deal with telephone interviews and paramed exams, and they want to be able to get onto an app or onto a website and be able to run a quote and be able to have a quick and easy process. So I'm thrilled that we're part of this kind of new generation of insurance that's really meeting the needs of customers, not just providing a death benefit.
Yeah, that's huge. That right now, that's probably the hottest sales and marketing concept is living benefits, is insurance, life insurance that pays while you're alive. Right? That's the new spin. In fact, and I'll just say this too, we created a consumer marketing video for our agents. So if you're listening right now and you say, hey, and this is free, by the way, okay, we will brand this living benefits consumer video to you. So you can then send it out on social media, e-blast, use it on your website, whatever the case is. So it's already built, already created for you. It's freaking awesome. We have a sample on our website. But that goes along with what Laura is talking about, okay? Hot new concept, and they have some great living benefits that you're going to hear about with my next question here. So I'm going to shift gears again, just a couple things left, and then we're going to wrap this up. But I think this is a good one. And I wanted, the goal, again, was for agents to walk away with nuggets, sales ideas, marketing concepts, maybe some product information you didn't know before listening to this podcast, right? So pen and paper time, real quick, and this is second to the last question here, but I think it's the most important because, again, I want our audience to with great info and, go to my Facebook page and say, Bill, that Laura Morrison episode was awesome. We got to do it again. That's the goal. So real quick, from a carrier's perspective, okay, where are you seeing the most business come from during this time? And, any good sales ideas, marketing concepts, maybe you can talk a little bit about your living benefits, right? And what products are hot right now? What are you guys seeing, Laura, right now? Anything you can share?
So we're absolutely seeing an increase in interest in life insurance. And there's a product in particular that's really gained a lot of interest recently. And it's a product I'm really, really proud of. Myself and a great team of colleagues at Sagicor developed this together. And I will say from personal experience, and I think that's what a lot makes us also great, is that we take our personal experiences and build them into our business. But I've experienced a loved one with dementia. And it is one of the most difficult things you'll experience to care for that loved one. That family member had an old long-term care policy. And by the time that they were diagnosed, and we started working with the insurance company, and it was so difficult to qualify and then submit the claims for reimbursement and determine what is and isn't covered. And for goodness sake, I'm in insurance. I know this business and how to submit those claims. And unfortunately, she ended up passing away before a single benefit was ever paid. And I took that experience into, let's make sure that we're building products not just for the insured, but also for the caregiver, because that caregiver is typically a spouse or an oldest child who's going through one of the most difficult things they'll experience in their life. And all on top of, and I will say this as the oldest child in my family, I have my own family. I have my own job on top of caring for a loved one. So when we built Wealth Care, which is a product designed for wealth transfer, it's designed to provide chronic illness benefits. And I will say it's one of the easiest claims processes in the entire industry to try to make the life as easy as possible for that caregiver, who is actually calling up the insurance company, who might be the owner, who might be the power of attorney, on behalf of that insured, who might be quite ill at the time and doesn't have the ability to call and provide claim information on their own. So what I love about the Wealth Care product is that it's built not only for the insured, but the caregiver. And just like we talked about bundling multiple features into one, it has 100% full guarantees. It has cash accumulation. It has chronic illness. It has death benefit accumulation potential, but it also has full return of premium. And the reason that's important is because it provides a comfort level to that client. And you may not ever use it, but so much of this business is built around your financial planning future. You don't know what's going to change. And I've seen scenarios where a client has bought a wealth transfer product and thankfully it has a return of premium or a strong cash value feature. And you find clients that, let's say I've seen situations where a client is diagnosed with a terminal illness and they say, you know what, my family doesn't need the death benefit. We would rather use those funds today, and I want to take my entire family on a trip to Italy or go on a cruise and have this last vacation of a lifetime while I'm living. And I think that's really the key thing today, is that building these products that you can certainly provide that legacy, but also experience the great benefits that it could be used for while you're living. So we've seen a really big shift in that, especially too the fact that it's guaranteed. The other thing I will say is kind of on that guarantee point. Sagicor also sells annuities, and great, easy to explain annuities with no fees. We've seen a huge shift to our guaranteed annuities, our multi-year guarantee annuities. And we've seen, because interest rates are so darn low right now, they're near zero. You go to a bank, you're going to get right around 1% on a CD, heck, even less on a savings or a money market account, where you can still get really strong guaranteed rates on a multi-year guaranteed annuity. And we've seen actually an interesting idea out there. We've seen them in comparison to maybe a laddered bond portfolio, because bond rates aren't that tremendous right now either. And given the market turbulence, some clients and advisors aren't comfortable with that market volatility. So we've seen a lot of business actually go into laddered multi-year guaranteed annuities. We have durations in 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 years, where we've seen advisors stagger premium dollars into different durations, so they'll mature at different times and then be able to go back into the market if it fits that client's need at the time. So that's where we've seen a bit of a shift in business over the last 6 to 8 months.
No, that's strong. The product name is the Wealth Care, has the full liquidity, right? And also the NOLAPS UL, the GUL. There's a lot of carriers that pulled out of that space, or they don't have competitive products now. They've raised pricing, and Sagicor has an awesome product in that space as well, and inexpensive term on this great technology platform. So a lot of pluses there, and definitely take a look. Laura, are there any incentives right now on the life or annuity side that you can share?
Right now, no. So sorry to take the steam out.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, well, the commissions are great, so it's okay. That stands alone.
Commissions are great. So what I will say, though, is we've made the decision as a company that if you can think about one big magic bucket of dollars that the insurance company has, and you can decide how you want to allocate that bucket. So we already have great, standardized commissions set up into the products, but we said if we have a place where we can really provide strong incentive, let's make sure we provide it to the consumer. So that's why you'll see we still have very competitive life insurance premiums, very competitive interest rates on our annuities. So given this time, we really wanted to make sure that we're doing the absolute best thing for those consumers, of course, not forgetting our agents. But, in this difficult time, let's provide as much benefit as we can to the consumer.
Yep. And I'll say this, also, every few months, I've seen your great incentive programs, but even putting that aside, I'm sure something's coming up soon, but putting that aside, the comp is awesome on all products. So, and, just call our office. We can get you set up, contracted, and, of course, share a commission schedule and everything else that goes along with it, and enroll you in the scholarship program as well. So, okay, we're just about done here. I just want to mention this quick personal story, and then we'll go back to Laura for any closing comments. As everyone knows, it's Life Insurance Awareness Month on top of this pandemic, right, that we're all going through. So again, a great time for you to reach out and help families. And I'm going to share a story that I know you all can relate to and you can use when speaking to consumers about life insurance planning, right? After all, you're there to help these families at the end of the day. Yes, the commissions will come. Yes, you need to make a living, but what has to come first is the families and the insured, right? That's what your career is. That's what it's about. Delivering that death benefit check, right? When everyone else has their hand out, the debt collectors, et cetera, you are the superhero. That's what it's about. So, real quick, this is an example that really hit home. It's actually going on as we speak. It's a very personal story, but at the end of the day, I know it's going to help our agents when they're relaying the message to prospects. So I have a very, very good friend of mine, a family friend, and she is 32 years old. She's a professional here in South Florida. And long story short, she has a brother that's, 28 years old, both professionals, 28 and 32. She's 32. We'll call her Stacy, just for the point of this conversation. And Stacy does very well, okay? I'm not going to say very well, but she does pretty well. Okay, she probably she's just above average for annual income. And her father, does and did pretty well throughout the years, and got divorced to their mother, and when the kids were very young, got remarried, and is a part-time firefighter, so has a pension and a lot of benefits through the government. Also is a jewelry wholesaler, so made a good living, everything's fine. Gets remarried. He's married for about 20 years. And actually, right before COVID-19 happened, they weren't getting along. We'll call him Bob and Victoria. Okay, Bob is Stacy's father. Victoria is his wife. Bob and Victoria were not getting along and wanted to go through and file for divorce. Okay, Victoria has a new boyfriend. Bob has a new girlfriend. They moved on with their lives. With COVID happening, I guess they couldn't get into the court system. They wanted to do everything through Zoom. That's what the attorneys recommended, the divorce attorneys. And Stacy told her father, many times, Dad, we have to make sure, your life insurance is set up properly. Your beneficiaries are set up properly. Your living will is set up. God forbid something happens. You're in your mid-60s, and me and my brother are, just kind of getting started in life and figuring things out. We want to make sure we're going to be okay. So Bob said, oh, yeah, no problem. I have my attorney working on everything. I'm just waiting to finalize my divorce. So they wanted to do this through Zoom and get everything done. Bob said, no, I'm going to wait till this whole COVID issue's over and do this in person, and kept putting it off, okay? So 2 weeks ago Sunday, Bob is in a motorcycle accident, okay? And he's now in a coma. Okay, and this is about a week ago. So right before September 11th, he was in a coma, and September 10th, the day before September 11th, there wasn't good signs for Bob. He looks like he wasn't going to make it. Now, because Bob didn't have all his affairs in order, and his soon-to-be ex-wife, Victoria, was his beneficiary, and wasn't very helpful to the family. And I'll give you an example. They had a do not resuscitate, DNR form that needed to be signed, right? And the problem is Bob didn't have his last wishes laid out properly, so they didn't know if they should keep Bob alive, right? Or they basically need to pull the plug, like if he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. And so the daughter, Stacy, took control and had to get an attorney involved and everything else, signed a DNR, right, because they didn't want to see their father living like a vegetable for the rest of his life, with dialysis and a breathing tube in a nursing home at 65 years old. So Stacy had to sign the DNR and get an attorney, and September 11th, Bob passed on, okay? Now there is a full-on legal battle. The kids are basically getting nothing, okay? Victoria, his soon-to-be ex-wife is getting over $1 million plus real estate, cars, motorcycles, all the above. The children, okay, Stacy and her brother, asked for, help with the funeral, and Stacy's brother said, hey, he had this fancy Corvette he always wanted me to have. Victoria's answer was, when are you going to give me the keys? Okay, like in other words, you're not getting anything. Okay?
Wow.
Horrible story. There's a fight going on still today. The funeral is this Sunday. It is a disaster, and it's all because, and I hate to say this, especially when someone's not here, but Bob should have changed his beneficiaries. Bob should have had a will, a living will and trust, and should have had everything laid out for his children. Here's a woman he doesn't even talk to anymore. She has a new life. She didn't even show up at the hospital, and she's getting a ton of money and cars and property, and the kids basically get nothing. And it's an ongoing fight. They're spending a fortune in legal fees. The ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, even wanted to take the body from the funeral home because technically she's still the wife and has full rights to do so. So it's a disaster when things could have been done a little bit differently. So my point is, it's your job as agents, financial advisors, share these stories and make sure your clients are set up properly. Give the advice. Bring in the estate planning attorney. Make sure everything is buttoned up. God forbid something like this were to happen. Okay, so use this story. All right. Anyway, enough of my rant. Let's close this up, and I appreciate everyone listening. It's obviously a very personal story, hard for me to share, but it's very important. If someone or a family can learn from this, great. Stacy even told me, hey, share this story on your webinar, on your podcast, and agents should learn from this to prepare their clients properly. So, all right. With that said, Laura, do you want to close with any last words, and we'll get this wrapped up?
Well, I would say, and I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend, but
Thank you.
The insurance review was so important. I'm so glad you told that story because you even just reminded me of things going, all right, I got to work on updating my trust because things have changed. So, you know, it's even for those of us who are in insurance day in and day out, it's you're absolutely right about making sure that, you know, you check your beneficiaries and your ownership. But thank you. It is always so fun talking to you. And it's so nice that, you know, you and I come from similar experiences and that, you know, both are so passionate about this fun world of life insurance. And I guess a fun tip for anyone, if you're ever on an airplane and you're sitting next to someone and they ask you what you do and you don't want to talk to them, life insurance is always the best answer because suddenly they'll stop talking to you. But so I appreciate everyone who's listening who is actually as passionate about it as Bill and I are. So thank you so much for your friendship and your kind words. And for all of the agents out there, thank you. You know, for your support of this great business and for helping clients every day.
Oh, thank you, Laura. We appreciate everything. And this was awesome. I know it was a little long, but I hope we provided lots of value to you all. Some great stories here, some great walk-away nuggets, as we like to call them. So just a couple things and examples. Being underestimated, right? Hitting the bottom, hitting the floor and bouncing back harder, right? And proving to yourself, most important, and everyone else that you can do this, even if you're on the younger side or you look a little different, whatever the case is, okay? Show them not only can you do this, you can do it better, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about, bouncing back, and there's no age limit. It doesn't make a difference how long or how little you've been in this business. The sky's the limit. It's the best-kept secret in the world, in my opinion, and it's up to you to run with it. So to get set up with Sagicor, let us know. We'll get you the cash for contracting, the scholarship program, of course, the commission grid, whatever we have to do. Call our office. This was great. Use that personal story I just shared. It's Life Insurance Awareness Month. It's your job to bring this stuff to your consumers and help them, right? And be honest and transparent, like Laura said. Great example. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's hope that things get better, especially ending out 2020 and starting the new year. I'm going to celebrate this new year like never before. I promise you that. But let's all have a great September, great selling, and thank you so much, Laura, and our audience. I really appreciate it from my heart. Take care. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.
Do what it takes.